there's a difference, you know, between facts and the truth. Facts can stand in the way of the truth. You can learn so many facts that you never get to the truth. The places where, the times when, the people who, the methods how, but never really the human truth. How did it move me? To whom am I related? How seriously should I be considered as a helpful person? I studied Serbo-Croat in Paris from a Yugoslav woman who taught me Serbo-Croat through French. Now, I don't know how I sounded because, in any case, I am a Southern black lady. So I have my own rhythm and way of being in this world. I learned her Serbo-Croat through her French. And I arrived in Yugoslavia. I was a part of Porgy and Bess, the opera. I was invited out by a couple who were about my age. I was about 24 or 5. And I said yes. Although the American State Department supported, underwrote Porgy and Bess, we were told by the American State Department that we were confined in 4 square block radius of the hotel and 4 square blocks of the theater. Now the reason, I mean, this was during the time when Yugoslavia was still behind the Iron Curtain. But I thought if I had $1 million, I would never go to Yugoslavia. So while I was there and I was invited out, I would go. There was also they couldn't fire me quite because there weren't that many dancers who could sing, black singers who could dance, walking around the streets of Yugoslavia. So I went. The pickup truck stopped by the theater and picked me up. There were about 30 people jammed, standing up in the back of the pickup truck. They hauled me on, and they were singing Yugoslav songs, Serbo-Croat songs, and they had a bottle of Slivovitz, and I drank, and we sang. And then the truck drove out of Belgrade, and I started getting a little nervous. I thought, have I gone too far? The truck drove in the country, way in the bush, and suddenly we pulled up in front of a house that looked like a Charles Adams house with turrets and griffins and wings, and it was, my heart was beating, so I thought, Lord, please don't leave me now. We walked into the house, and there on the record player, there was playing Billie Holiday. Mean to me, why must you be mean to me? Well, that kind of settled me a bit. We had food and drink, and we spoke mostly French, I suppose, because my Serbo-Croat was pretty primitive. And then out of a corner of a room came a little old woman. She may have been about 4'10" or 9, tiny, and she had osteoporosis. And she had on a flannel robe and homemade flannel slippers, the same kind that my grandmother used to make for herself. And she came out and she looked at the people and she talked, and everyone knew her and they were making over her. And suddenly she looked in the corner where I was sitting and she screamed. She was terrified. My hosts were so embarrassed. They came, they tried to talk to her. They apologized to me. They said, she's ignorant. Please forgive her. I said, no, please, I understand. If I had lived 90 years among my people and never saw a white person and saw one in my 90th year, I would scream, I understand. So I started talking to her in Serbo-Croat. I said, "Good evening, Mother. I'm very happy to be in your home, Mother. You have a beautiful home. Your children are very nice, Mother. The food is very good. Mother, I like the music." She started coming close to me, little by little, and I kept my voice. I tell you, I know that my Serbo-Croat was primitive, but it conveyed my intent. And she came close to me and closer, and finally she came close enough, and it didn't come off. And then she touched my hair. She sat down beside me. She said, "Bring food." Her children, her great-grandchildren, said, "She's eaten." I said, "No, bring food." So I took a bite. I chewed. She watched me. She said, "Bring drink." Now, Slivovitz, properly drunk, should be preceded by a tiny spoon of apricot preserves, then the Slivovitz, then another little spoon. And I did it properly. She patted my cheek and said, "Good girl." It was amazing. I was reminded again of I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. I sat there, my hosts were so happy that I hadn't been angry or hurt, and they made over me. After about 15 minutes, the door opened, the same door she had exited into, opened, and an old man came out, older than she, and even more bent over. And when he didn't look straight at me, I knew she was playing a trick. So he came out, and he was talking to the people and making over them. And then he looked and saw me, and he screamed. And she said, "Don't be stupid." That's a nice girl. He came to me. I did the same thing. "Father, thank you for letting me come into your home. Father, you have a nice home," etc. When he sat down beside me, he asked me, "Who is your grandfather?" Now picture, I was 6 foot tall, black, on the outskirts of Beograd, Yugoslavia. And this old man in his 90s asked me about my grandfather. So I said, "My grandfather's name was Thomas Bailey Johnson." He said, "Thomas Bailey Johnson, Thomas Bailey Johnson, Thomas." He asked, who was his father? I said, "William Bailey Johnson." He said, "William Bailey Johnson, I'm William Bailey Johnson. I know him." He said he was a farmer on the other side of the mountain. He wasn't as good as his father was, but he's very nice. And you are a good girl. Human beings are more alike than we are unalike. It is very important to have that as a basis, I think, for learning. If we know that, really know that, then we are able to take the wisdom of Confucius, the wit of Langston Hughes, the profundity of Martin Buber, the wry and biting intelligence of Edna St. Vincent Millay. We can take the eloquence of Shakespeare and the persistence of Amiri Baraka. It all belongs to all of us, all the time. I think that if we narrow ourselves down, we close off learning, and we close off the possibility of being of use, real use in the universe. I know that a number of people are concerned all the time with the bottom line. The true bottom line is you won't be here that long. That's the true bottom line. We are given about that much time. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we used our energies for the benefit of our species and of our planet? It is a sad thing to amass so much material that we become exiled to things.